Okay. I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Payne Donovan.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore.
Here.
Councilmember Woodard.
Here.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Wall is currently not present. Oh, wait. He's not online either.
Yeah, he may or may not, depending on connectivity. He might be trying, but,
I'll watch for him.
and
You
if not, we can excuse
him.
him.
You can excuse.
Yeah, we can excuse him later.
Mayor, I move to excuse Mayor Pro Tem Ryan, or not Ryan, Wall even, in the instance that he doesn't show up.
All right. Second. Okay, we might as well vote on it now. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So he is excused in case he can't make it. All right. Excuse me. Next is the city manager's report.
Thank you very much, Mayor, members of council. I got several updates for you tonight. The first, I wanted to mention that the newly redesigned city happenings went out and should be hitting mailboxes yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So we sent those out. A lot of good information here, particularly on the comp plan, upcoming comprehensive plan update, and kicking off the Terrace talk on September 13th. At 6 p.m. here in this chamber. We'll be talking about the comprehensive plan update with the community on that evening as well, and just making sure we get as much information as we can out to the community so that they are eligible, and we welcome them to participate and comment on what we're looking forward to and what the community will look like over the next 20 years. Next, we wanted to remind everybody about the Day of Service on September 9th. And that is focused on the Civic Campus cleanup here. So that opportunity for volunteering will be available. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about the road projects. We have several road projects happening or about to start. The first is on 52nd Avenue, right down at the bottom of the hill. It's a short segment, but pretty intense in an effort to make sure that we impact the business community and the schools in particular as little as possible. We had planned for that project to start tonight, actually, at 7 o'clock and finish up at 7 in the morning. Unfortunately, a piece of contractor's equipment broke that's critical for that project, but we will do the same thing next week so that we mitigate the impact on the schools as much as possible. But we are going to send out hang the door hangers on all the people that may be affected a second time, just to make sure everybody that we can inform will be informed. We'll have the reader board out there that lets people know when this is going to be happening. Second, the project on 66th, the rebuilding of that roadway and adding of the bike lanes. We'll start here within the next 2 weeks. We did give a date earlier that it would start on September 11th, I believe. And that has changed a little bit because we're waiting for some paperwork from the contractor, like their certificate of insurance. So until we get that, we can't get them started. And then lastly, the chip seal project in the neighborhoods between 56th and Terrace Creek Park. Same relative situation, but we'll make sure we inform folks before we get started and give them a couple days notice. A couple of software updates I wanted to mention. We implemented Tokay, which is a software program that streamlines the inspections of backflow devices for residents and businesses for protection of our water supply. So that will help out quite a bit, I think. A couple other ones, time and attendance software for the city. So we're not doing our timesheets on Excel anymore, is well underway, along with the redesign of our utility billing system. I know that's caused some issues for residents, and we want to make sure we get that right the next time that we update that. I think that'll be the third time in about 3.5 years, so we'll make sure we get it right this time. Let's see, what else here? I'm sure you all noticed that we corralled a sheep yesterday if you saw that. So we had a sheep in the pen at the police department over here, so that was a fun couple hours for all of us until it got picked up, but it is home safe at this point. Starting of school, so we wanted to make sure that our police department is providing an emphasis particularly on speeding near our schools on the first day and over the first week to ensure safety for those kids going back to school. I'm sure they all appreciate it. And on the fountain out here, I know that's been a big topic of conversation. And you did receive a communication about that fountain from a resident today, so I wanted to give an update on that. We did rebuild the electrical cabinet below the fountain, and we did get the part in. The switch that was a unique piece of equipment, we got that in. Everything looks to be operational starting next week, fingers crossed. So that's where we are with that. Let's see here, a couple other things. The indoor playground at the pavilion is reopened now. It was scheduled and mentioned on our website that it would be closed through the 30th, and about 6 o'clock this morning, we got a notification from a resident that we needed to update our website because today's the 31st, so it should be open. So we got that updated, and we appreciate that help. Let's see, emphasis there. And I think that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. Going back to the traffic revision, it might have been stated in the way you introduced it, but on 66, is that going to be a reroute, or is that like one lane, or it's cut down to 2 lane? Like what's the status, I guess, of how they're going to do that?
I'll ask our Public Works Director to come up, but I believe that's going to remain open. It won't be a full closure as far as I know, but I'll ask Jesse to correct me if I have some misinformation there.
Thank you.
It's on.
Yeah, we should be keeping lanes open, probably 1 lane in each direction at most times. Sometimes we will have detours going in order to pave, but I don't anticipate paving itself will start until next year. We'll probably be doing flat work and curb ramps and such. And then also the signal light that we'll be replacing at 216th and 66, we anticipate a 6-month lead time on the poles. That's where it's at right now. So once we give notice to proceed, which should happen probably tomorrow, then they'll have to place that order. And we're looking at total project completion, I'm hoping by late spring. Should have all the cement work done today, and if we're lucky and the weather holds, we'll get the paving done, and then bits and parts will come in. And next year, worst case scenario, we pave once the weather breaks early next year.
As long as we have Jesse up here, I have a question about what happened, why the crews were on at 48th and 216th, just south of 216th.
I'm going to have to ask and get back to you. Is that okay?
Because I decided not to go that way. I just decided to go a different way to just avoid them.
48th and 216th?
Just south of 216th.
Okay, I'll get an answer for you shortly.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, so you're done. All right. Thank you. Then next is the review. David Evans and Associates Professional Services Agreement Amendment for Pavement Preservation and Other Projects with Jesse. So you can come back up here.
Okay, so if you guys remember last set of council meetings, we brought a Pratik contract for contract management for 66 to you, and I mentioned that we would be bringing another contract to you, and that's what this is. This covers the construction management, or what we call CEI, which is construction inspection and engineering, construction engineering inspection, one or the other, however that acronym plays out. And what they'll do is they will take field reports and perform testing and look at prints and modifications on the job for us. So right now, we don't have the staff to perform this function along with everything else that we do, along with monitoring development, the civil side of development. So this will supplement our staff. The project total is $61,162, not to exceed, and it'll be done on a time and material basis if the council council approves this contract, this work order, I should say. The contract already exists.
Oops.
Can I answer any questions?
Does anyone have any questions or comments? I don't have this open, so I better get to it. Okay. So, no questions? So, we can move on to the next one.
Okay, great.
Well, which is the review resolution for various public works grants.
Thank you, Mayor. And I apologize, I didn't say Mayor and Council, thank you for having me to talk. Please excuse me. What this is a housekeeping thing right here. We went through our grants, and what we found is that the method by which we were getting approval for expenditure from council was to bring parts of grants with parts of projects as they came through for project approval. And it left I guess, a mess on our side so what we decided to do is come through with resolutions approving expenditure of the grants in one motion by the council. So we've taken all of the grants that we either don't have authorization to expend the funds for or have partial authorization to expend the funds for, and we've brought them through as 7 resolutions to the council. And that kind of sums it up. There's not a lot to it except for to add that Janella Lewis, our finance director, actually has helped us out a ton with this. She opened up a module in our accounting program that's going to allow us to have the projects and the grants linked to each other. So it should really help with accounting. This is really an accounting problem on engineering side where it's tough. It was really tough on us.
Councilmember Salmore?
My question is, let me just read it, that most cities have types of grants for mostly park-related things, and I know it can differ from city to city, but what does our budget ordinance say about these grants? Because sometimes it has, and I'm glad you mentioned finance, because a lot of times our financial policy dictates, because it said, council didn't see something, and so of course I perked up, and I'm thinking, what does our public or our budget ordinance say on how these sources can be spent? And because a lot of times, and sometimes, we don't get these in front of us. And so the city's finance includes grants that have to be approved before spending. So what exactly are those? Or are you saying that it was something in your finance policy or in your accounting program?
So as far as I know, we've never spent any money that you guys didn't approve, as far as I know. And all grants are brought to you at the application phase to get your approval to apply for those grants. Actually, we were talking to the city attorney, and there is no actual ordinance or law that I am aware of, or that we are aware of, that says that we have to get expenditure approval after applying for them. However, that's been our practice here, and I think it's a good practice. It lets you know that this money's here and that we're going to spend it for the purposes that it was designated for.
Can you just say that again? Because a lot of times the applications don't come to us. And you're saying they all do?
As far as I know, they should be, and if they were not, that will be
Well, I'm
corrected,
just
at
saying
least
not
from.
your department, but I think that in the past, not all of them have come before council. It's not like, I'm trying to look at my notes, what I saw from last time, but most of them that I understood were park-related, but I didn't think all of them, and I was going to look that up, came in front of council, especially when you're applying for them.
So what the procedure that we've used, and I can't speak to how it was done in the past, but the procedure we've used, and I talked to council about a couple months ago, was if a project is on the approved capital facilities plan or the approved capital improvement plan, for the application, we would not come to council to ask for a approval to apply for it. Now, if something is not on the approved capital facilities plan that's part of the budget, then we would come to council to ask to apply. But we always come to council for acceptance of the grant, because sometimes that comes with matching dollars. And if it does, council should be aware and approve that we can use those matching dollars or the in-kind contributions in order to fulfill the purpose of the grant. What was done previously is for expenditures, and I'm just going to throw some numbers out there. They're not related to anything here, but they're round numbers, so they're easier for me to deal with. If we received a grant for $5 million, but a component or an implementation of a piece of that grant was for $2 million, we would come to council and ask for expenditure authority for that $2 million, not for the full $5 million. So there's the gaps there between the money that we have or the money that we're eligible to ask for reimbursement for versus what we actually have the authority from council to spend. And that's what we want to change a little bit to make sure that we're not leaving any money on the table and we can put that money to good use, the money that we've been authorized, we can put that money to good use for the citizens of the community.
You have
So
more?
just so, what's our financial policy?
On grants? Yeah, we can provide that to you. We didn't bring it with us tonight.
And my other question is, if I understood what you just said, if we get a grant and it's for a certain purpose, council has to approve how you're going to use it? Why would we say no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
so-
I understand whether to accept it if we have to, if there's certain stipulations,
Right.
but if we already, so, yeah, you kind of get what I'm saying.
I
It's just
do.
kind of like, why would we say no? So,
As far as I understand, getting to the very end, the expenditure part, because I think City Manager Knighton has done a lot, sorry, I'm not speaking into the mic, has done a lot more investigation in this as we've gone through it. I've been kind of dealing with the accounting side of it and engineering. But at the very end of it, I'm not sure we actually have to get authorization to expend once we've gone through the other side of the processes according to our city attorney. However, I think it's good practice and you know what's going on then, and we're, I feel like it's probably, I'm comfortable with that policy, and
or we would do it during a budget process is the other thing that I was thinking of that I couldn't read on my notes, so.
Councilmember Payne Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just chime in and say, I think it to Councilmember Sonmore's point, I think, and Jesse's point, it does help us sort of track things through their lifespan, because I'm familiar with, I think, everything on this list. But, seeing that there's projects from 8 years ago sort of helps us think about sort of how things flow and how things are moving, et cetera. So I appreciate this.
right. That's a big part of it, is we're going through and we're collecting all of the money that, and making sure that we're expending it now that we're starting to rebuild our engineering department and get things moving forward.
Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I've understood what you're saying. I just kind of want to hear it in my own language, so if it comes back to us, I go, well, I asked the question this way. I effectively hear you saying you want to streamline these processes, if you will, because we've already accepted the grant, which has got X dollar in its budget, and what we've been doing is piecemealing it, just coming project by project saying, yes, you may do that. Next one, yes, you may do that. So we're going to figure out a way to where we keep track of it, but allow you all to have it authorized to begin with. So I guess my question, if I followed that right, is are we gaining, losing, or staying status quo with any safeguards with the way that we have it now? Because again, it's not like you're going to overspend that budget, so it's not like you're just out there spend, and we're supposed to stop you at some point. You're tracking that. You are the expert, so you would be telling us what we need, so I don't know there's any time we would say no, right, because it's inside of the needs. But for whatever reason, our practice has just been to one at a time authorize, and we're just removing that. But we'll still be updated along the way of this is how the money's being spent. So again, there's no safeguard that we're bypassing or anything like that.
No, and you guys are approving, or should I say the council and the mayor, please excuse my language, they are approving the grant contracts as they're coming through.
Councilmember Sonmore?
Steve, you brought up a question that I didn't quite understand is, because that kind of blows what I was trying to think of. You're going to bring them to us all at once? How do you, if they're all spread out? Because wouldn't we see those as a budget ordinance and then we'd approve them before spending? I get that part. But how do you bring them to us all at once when they're piecemealed? You're just going to spend them all at one time? Or I would think you'd get one quarter and one another. So I'm just trying to understand. Maybe I misunderstood.
We're changing the process here. We're going back and we're trying to clean up what we had going before, which was kind of piecemealed together. And through a combination of the finance director opening up a new part of our accounting program where we're able to more easily track things in one visible spot for the engineering department and bringing through these items as resolutions as needed. We will come through as each grant is awarded to us and bring a resolution to you saying, we've been awarded this grant. We would like authority to expend these funds at this point.
Councilmember Woodard?
I know we're not supposed to address each other, so I'm going to answer your question, but look this way. A different way to say this is, today they're bringing us 7 resolutions, but the problem exists at the unit of 1. That they're bringing us 7 is because there's 7 active, but really, we're trying to do this for every grant moving forward, so 7 is arbitrary today. That's what I was trying to figure out. What they're really saying is what you said. You bring a grant, we know the budget, you keep track of it, you're the expert. We won't most likely tell you no, because you're the expert. But this is every single grant. It just happens to be 7 right now. Am I following that correctly? Like this is.
You're following that correctly. Okay. That's right.
No, it makes a whole lot of sense because I guess where I was going with it, if you have 7, are we about to lose the grants or do we have, any of those things that could hinder what could possibly happen to those grants? Because all of a sudden I hear it, if all at once, you said, I was thinking next year, if we get them all at once, okay, are we past the deadline? And that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I guess where I'm going was how did it get broken, and how did we get to this point?
Oh, I'll take a swing at it if you don't mind. I think staff transitions. I think we've had multiple people handling this over a number of years now that have left after short periods of time, and now we're trying to pull it back together, and that is what this is here, is housekeeping to do that. And as far as losing grants, at this point, I'm not aware that we're in danger of losing any grants, and we have made a concerted effort since May to go backtrack, find out when our deadlines are, and put those items as priorities in our list of projects so that we don't. Most of these have obligation dates that we have to hit where you have to obligate funds for them.
And you hit the nail on the head. I see it all the time, especially when you've been at an organization for so long and new people come in and you're like, why are you doing it that way? We've always done, and then all of a sudden you lose that institutional knowledge. And the part that I get really worried is our contracts. How do we miss a contract? And so, do we have something set up that, if a whole department came in and they missed a contract deadline, how does that happen? And so that's why I'm kind of worried about those things too, because we know that's happened. So
It has, and it's one of my primary goals to make sure that doesn't happen again. One of the things that we're implementing, and Jesse mentioned it briefly, is several years ago, we bought a module in our financial system, and it's specifically for grant and project tracking. We've never fully implemented that module. And what Jesse mentioned that our finance director, Janella, is doing is opening that module to make it easier for us to track, but also easier for us to report to the granting agencies that we've met our obligations. So we purchased the module. Now we are going to make full use of the module we have so we can implement that and track those things and have the metrics and make sure our granting agencies are happy so they'll give us more grants.
And I'm sure lots of organizations are having the same issue. It's just, we have to ask these questions because we're here, so.
All right. Anyone else? Well, I see some of these have been on for a while. So I'm glad that we're going to start working on them. Okay, so the next one, if we can move on, is a review of the Otak contract amendment for a comprehensive plan.
Okay, great. So what we have here is during the ARPA funding discussions, council decided to fund $325,000 for a transportation master plan that also has a portion that will tie into the comprehensive plan as the, let me get the term correct here, the transportation element of that plan. So what we did is we went to, our staff went to Fear and Peers, that is a well-known consultant that does transportation planning work, and we acquired an estimate or a quote for that work and consulted with Otak. They've worked together quite a bit, those two groups, and here it is. So I don't think I explained that well, sorry. Yes, the money was allocated through ARPA, I'm sorry.
I saw that. Any, Councilmember Sonmore?
So I'm going to ask because it's almost $1 million, and that's huge. I've looked at what other cities are spending, and I nearly fell off my chair. So my question is, when was the last time this was updated, and how much did we spend?
Please excuse me, the last discussion kind of had me taken aback there. So 2007, and apparently what was done is if you do a partial update on these type of plans, it doesn't cost as much. And so in 2007, the city did a partial update to the plan instead of a full transportation master plan. So what we didn't have on it was town center and I believe the light rail station. So the whole transportation plan for the city has to be looked at and evaluated, and the models have to be rebuilt so that we can properly plan for the future of the city of Mountlake Terrace. In addition, and really importantly, is impact fees as development happens, because that's how we're going to fund roads getting rebuilt and utilities getting put into the ground.
I understand the 325 for transportation. I know that's big, but it's still that other $500,000, and I know there's going to have to be a lot of work going in. But I just had to say it because that was sticker shock, and we knew that was coming, but it's a lot.
I also looked at that number and thought, wow. I think that it's about what a house costs though right now, if that makes sense, if you put it in perspective for that, so. The 807.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
So next is the review of the salary ordinance amendment with our Deputy City Manager, Carolyn Hope.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Glad to be with you tonight. I am here to talk about amending our salary schedule. We basically have 3 vacant FTEs right now, and we would like to modify how we use them from the original budget request and salary survey. We have 3 engineering 2 positions in Public Works, and we'd like to allocate 1 to IT to develop an IT systems analyst position, which is at the same grade as the civil engineer 2. Wouldn't cost any additional funding to do that conversion. And that position would really support a lot of the projects occurring in IT right now. It would be someone who's in middle of Gary, our IT administrator, and our 2 customer service technicians. So someone who's really able to walk in the door with a lot of IT knowledge and implement projects that we have on hand. We also have 2 other civil engineer 2 positions. One, we'd like to convert to a civil engineer 3 traffic engineer position, which is a very important position that cities need to have a traffic engineer. Sometimes they're combined into other engineering positions, but we have a significant amount of work now and in our future to build out town center, to update our TMP, to take care of our increasingly busy streets and transit infrastructure and so forth. So really looking to fill that senior level position soon, this fall, hopefully. And that third position, we would just like the flexibility to potentially hire at a higher level. So it's a civil engineer 2 right now. We just like the potential to hire someone at a 3 if we find someone with that experience. Our engineering team is really missing that middle level of positions. We have senior level people like Jesse and our city engineer, and we have a couple of junior level engineers right now. So having a little more depth in the organization would be super helpful to implement the projects at hand. So the cost, if we increase a civil engineer 2 position to a civil engineer 3, is about $6,900 a year. So for one position, that would be a given if we move to that traffic engineer position. And the other position, we're just asking for the option. So it could stay at the no-cost scenario, or it could go to $6,900 a year. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Salmore?
So the first question is always, they're vacant, so I don't see a big, huge financial impact to the city then.
That's right.
Isn't one of those positions something that's very difficult to fill? Because every other city wants them to.
Yes, they're very competitive, and we are struggling a little bit with our salaries as well. Yes.
All right. Anyone else? Councilmember Payne Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick comment for the record. I think this is very common sense. Thank you for the work, and I hope this can net us someone who can fill these roles, because I think a super competitive market, and these salaries, while they might seem like big numbers, definitely aren't necessarily super competitive. So thanks for bringing this before us.
Yep.
All right. I don't see anyone else's hands going up. So we can, we're done, except for now we're going to go to the public comment section. I was trying to open up the agenda for next week.
We're doing public comment.
We are now on public comments, and we have, well, first of all, let's go on to see if there's anyone out in the audience.
No one signed up in person, and if there's anyone in the online audience who would like to speak, please use the hand raise tool. Going once, going twice. There is no public comment from the
All right.
audience.
Well, we have 3 public comments that will be entered into the records. One is from Sherry L. Roth in Mountlake Terrace, and the other is from Robert Tollefson from Mountlake Terrace, and the third one is from Jody Davidson in Mountlake Terrace. And so these will all be entered into the records. And if there isn't anything else, we're going to move on to the review of the September 5th agenda. So has everyone taken a look at it and sees all of these things on the consent agenda?
Can we also state for the record a reminder that the meeting's on Tuesday?
Oh, yes. The meeting is on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, because I don't think anyone will show up on a holiday. Okay, then, last on our agenda is council comments. Does anyone have any council comments? Councilmember Salmore?
So I'm thinking, we got a note, and I looked it up on my phone, but the date didn't come up. I needed to look on my iPad, and I just haven't. We're having a volunteer event? It
The
came
day
out
of
today from Jennifer, I think. The date of was the volunteer event?
Yeah, the day of service is on 9/9. I had accidentally sent it as 9/23.
Oh, no, I didn't mean, I
Oh.
didn't mean that. I thought I got another one today. Was there another meeting notice sent today?
October 2 is the joint meeting, Council, Planning Commission, and Comprehensive Advisory Group. October 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And that was, which one? Sorry. It echoes really weird in here.
I know, that's okay.
I have a hard time hearing when you guys walk,
So
Wednesday,
October 4 is the special joint meeting with City Council, the Planning Commission, and the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Group.
Dinner will be served at 6, and the meeting starts at 6:30.
the day of service.
The public meeting starts at 6:30.
And is that the one you were referring to in your report? I didn't hear you either. Okay, thank you.
I know we're
I'm
adding
bad
a
with
lot of
dates.
things onto our calendar, and
Thank you.
we may have to get reminders in big letters if we change a time, because the original one ends up in my calendar, and then the changes never make it. Right. Is the what?
My grandmother gave me this.
All right, does anyone else have any council comments?
Gotta use it.
Go ahead, City Manager.
thank you. Just to answer your question, our Public Works Director found the answer to the construction activity that was at 216th and 44th. It was potholing, so we can start the Safe Routes to School program, Safe Routes to School project.
Oh, okay, great.
Do we have any new grants for those coming up at all? Because there's a whole bunch of different areas that could really benefit from that.
Yeah, their Safe Routes to Schools specifically, I am not quite sure when the window opens, but it's, usually a 45-day window or something like that. But we can take a look and see if those funds are available. But all grants, we're looking to take advantage of all the grants that we can in order to leverage those dollars to produce the vision that the council has set.
Well, I do know that that street really, really needed it. And I'm noticing that other streets that really need it are getting filled in, so thank you. Little by little, we're going to get this done. I don't see anyone else's hands going up. I just want to remind everybody who might be listening, who live in the city, to remind them that all 7 of us council members live in the city. We do drive the streets. We do notice when there are potholes. We also live in the city and we pay our water bills. We have noticed that mine went up 2.5 times. So we have noticed. Okay, if there aren't any other hands going up, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
It just said with